Hello everyone, and here we have a new story. Before we get to that, I want to ask you to subscribe, like, and be sure to write comments in order to participate in the development of the community. Write how to improve my community, current topics and the stories you are interested in, and much more. I read and listen to all the comments. People write me stories by mail from different countries. There are problems with translation. I apologize for this. I will work on it and try to fix these errors. I want to thank everyone for their support and the people who wrote to me by mail, broadcast news stories. New videos on my channel are published once every 2 days at 7 p.m. Don't forget to put a bell in order not to miss new videos. And now let's go. Hello, I want to tell you my story. My name is Jack and my ex-wife is Emily. We are both 35 years old. We have been married for 10 years and both love extreme sports. We also really like to spend time together. We have 2 children. We are quite a young and happy couple. At least that's what I thought. My wife has always been secretive. She never let me in on her business and I never really asked or insisted on it. She earned good money, so I preferred not to interfere in her affairs. Considering that most of it is related to work, I never found it strange that her phone conversations always took place in another room. It didn't bother me even that there was a password on her phone. After all, I also had password on my phone. I can't say that I didn't trust my wife, but still, a neighbor appeared in our family's history a few years ago. He often came to visit us for coffee and stayed to talk with us. Naturally, I didn't mind. He was an educated man 3 years older than my wife and me. He is single and held a high position at his job. At the same time, he was a sociable and pleasant person. At least that's how it seemed to me at first glance. I was not jealous of his wife because all the meetings took place in front of me. He didn't do anything unnecessary and I either didn't notice it or I just didn't want to notice it. But the situation showed that during this period of time, deer antlers began to grow on my head. With these horns, a year later, I could knock down fruits from trees. I was carrying the burden and didn't know about it. The only thing that pleased me was that I wasn't the only one. So what happened? Where does all this negativity come from? It's simple. My wife has been having an affair with our neighbor for more than 3 years. How is this possible, you ask? Yes, it's very simple. After all, my wife loves extreme sports and in order to see her lover, she climbed onto his balcony from our balcony. The problem is that our balconies are not glazed and there was only one metal barrier. We were decent people and did not build barriers with barbed wire. Moreover, we knew each other very well. But as it turned out, the neighbor communicated with my wife even too well. Why didn't I notice this before? It's simple. I have a good sleep and my wife carried out such sorties in the dead of night. It looked quite normal because she always liked to smoke on the balcony. I've never kept her company because I don't smoke at all, so I didn't pay attention to it. When you are tired after work, you will not count the hours of your wife's absence, as much as you would like that. In general, everything always looked quite natural. And I would have walked with horns if not for one occasion. On one of those nights, I was woken up by a phone call. The number was unidentified, so I immediately dropped the call. But my sleep was disrupted. Only the calls in many cases could wake me up. I guess my body is already used to it. If someone calls, it's something important, especially at a time. Whatever it was a pleasant spring evening. The door to the balcony was ajar. The curtains swayed in the light breeze. The stars were shining brightly in the sky, and I did not take the absence of my wife on the balcony as a bad sign. You never know, she could be in another room in the kitchen or bathroom. If she wasn't with me, then this option would seem logical to me. But how wrong I was in my assumptions. For the first time in a long time, I went out on the balcony to get some fresh spring air. Moreover, the weather contributed to this. But what did I see? My wife was standing in the dog pose and my neighbor was accelerating for her extreme pleasure. What did I feel at that moment? Censorship is not able to miss 𝐂𝐿 what I wanted to do with them. I was just furious. At first, I wanted to take my wife by the hair and throw her off the balcony, but we had the 8th floor. Fortunately, I stopped in time. More precisely, the neighbor threw her to his side of the balcony. They disappeared together through his balcony door. My wife said something plaintively before leaving. I didn't even have time to hear what exactly. She was probably apologizing. Means you did to me. That's what I thought during their cowardly flight during my anger. If it wasn't for our kids, I would have kicked down the door right now. And I would have solved this problem quickly and effectively. But no matter how furious I was, I didn't want to make a scene in front of the children. The morning came and I sent the children to school. At the same time, I asked parents to pick them up from school. I knew that my wife needed to go to work later than me, and she did not leave the neighbor's apartment. Take my word for it, I stayed up all night and made sure she didn't leave this apartment. What have I come up with in all this time? Nothing new. I wanted to turn these two into chops. No one had the right to mock me with impunity. I began to remember that my wife very often went out to smoke on the balcony. I began to understand approximately how long it could last. I got the answers quickly right after the children left. There was a knock on my front door. As it turned out, my wife was also waiting for the children to go to school. But at least for that, thanks for deciding to explain your bestial behavior not in front of the children. I opened the door and saw her tear-stained face. I even felt sorry for her, but only for a second. I grabbed her by the hair out of anger and dragged her into the apartment. After that, I began the interrogation. She didn't explain anything, just cried and held on to her split lip. Yes, I overdid it. Yes, I overdid it. It was only when I said I wasn't going to beat her anymore that she started telling me everything. She honestly admitted that their affair had been going on for 3 years. It started on the first day as soon as our neighbor moved into our house. This information blew my mind. I do not know how I restrained myself from hitting her again. It just didn't make sense. She was sitting there crying and her snot was running down her face. To redeem what she did, it won't be enough for me to kill her. Then I asked, "Do you even regret what you did?" She answered yes. Then she started asking for forgiveness and pushing for pity with the help of our children. Of course I loved our children, but I won't be manipulated. My wife realized this and offered to file for divorce herself. Of course, I agreed, and our dialogue ended there. We decided not to tell our children about the details. What happened to my neighbor? Things were more interesting here. She didn't say a word in defense of her lover. Moreover, I did not have any tender feelings for him. I couldn't beat my wife badly because there was no point in it. But her lover is another matter. This cowardly animal who saw me every day smiled and greeted me. What an idiot I was. I was very annoyed by this coward. He was afraid to talk to my wife. After that, he ran away from his apartment while my wife and I were figuring out our relationship. But it's okay, I'm a patient person. The time to sort things out came closer tonight. He came to his house and wanted to open the front door. I came up behind him and pulled him by the collar. He turned in my direction and looked at me in fright. He started asking not to hit him and begged for forgiveness. He also blamed my wife for everything. I was ready to kill him, but limited myself to 2 strong blows to the face and body. I didn't want to get my hands dirty on such a person because I was disgusted. As a result, my wife and our children went to their parents. After that, she filed for divorce and alimony, but she still apologizes every day. She doesn't give up trying to get our relationship back. But I am categorically against it. Our neighbor moved to another city the next day and I never saw him again. As I understand it, the neighbor put his apartment up for sale. I'm still living alone and trying to digest this situation. Actually, I'm thinking of doing a DNA test because it seems to me that the children are not mine. I don't want to provide alimony for my ex-wife and children, although I sincerely hope that they are mine. But anything is possible because I don't trust my wife. I have to be 100% sure that these are my children. If you like the story, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so as not to miss new videos. Now let's move on to the opinion of the author of the channel. The opinion of the author of the channel. According to tradition, I want to wish strength and patience to our hero. After listening to your story, I was not surprised. This has already happened in my practice. Wives lead their lives at night when they get bored. They motivate this by the fact that her husband works and devotes little time to her. This is a very stupid and standard female excuse. You shouldn't get upset. You need to start a new life. I hope the children are yours after all. If you have watched to the end, I want to say thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you for joining me on this exciting journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. I appreciate your support and encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this story. Your participation and feedback are invaluable for shaping our content and promoting mutual understanding and community growth. Until we meet again.